Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. We're back with your press conference reaction. It's a little bit of a bite-sized thing that we always do throughout the preseason. And I watch the preseason press conference and I watch all the press conferences so you don't have to. We make it into a bite-sized thing so you can catch it at the end of work. Sometimes I know a lot of you guys just can't be bothered sitting through me waffling for 40 minutes about a press conference. So I've decided this season to make it bite-sized so it's really quick, impactful. And as I say, I take the work off you guys. If you want some extended Patreon content, we've got Hugo Bueno insights, we've got articles, we've got everything on the Patreon now as well. If you want us to help support the channel, all the investment goes back into it, everybody, so please make sure you do so. We've got merchandise available as well. As I say, the Patreon's readily available at a really decent price. We've got a soft launch coming on the Patreon very soon as well if you want to sign up to that. But we're going to be getting into today's press conference. So Farke, what was he saying today? Really interesting, really developed press conference. He enveloped, is that a word? He developed is what I was looking at. I've done this before, everybody, and didn't record, which was nice and frustrating on every single point, which was great. You know what they call him in Germany, the Schwarzer, which essentially means that he is the talker. So you'll ask him a question, just needs a direct reply, one sentence, and he will go on for a little bit. So you mentioned the shorter pre-season due to the Euros, and he was right. Obviously, players have gone on holiday. Is that a little bit of an excuse? No, of course it's not. But he was just talking facts. You know, because of the Euros, what's happened, players are then going to have to go on a little bit more and go on holidays and stuff like that, and then they come back to the group, and that's when the group really starts to get together. The German, obviously pre-camp, better equipped. He was speaking about being better equipped from last season, kind of dotted around the Somerville and Archie Gray transfers. I think we all know we are better equipped when it comes to the spread around, and a little bit later on, we develop into exactly why we are more developed and what Farke talks about in terms of transfers, etc. But right now, goals spread a little bit more evenly across the squad. Sounded like him then, didn't that? Across the squad. Good news, of course. Archie and Cree spoke about Leeds United not being able to replace Christensen Somerville. I get him to an extent, but we've seen some of the best players in the Championship. Pereira, Ben Rama, Cher, Buendia, even for him, come from no money from the continent. It's all about just having a fine eye in recruitment, of which you're hoping that Jordan Miles has that. Chris Somerville can definitely be replaced. I'm not going to say the output of one of these players is going to replicate that, but we all know who we want in, and we're going to get onto that in a little bit. Archie Gray, Bogle, is that a bit of an upgrade because you've got a right back there? I think so. He mentioned specifically as well that two players went for an undisclosed fee, Archie and Christensen Somerville. We know we will never hear the full story behind that, what the fee was, how much the add-ons were, because the 49ers will not let that out. And that's why we know they spoke to West Ham United and said, do not release that fee. So for Archie, we don't know the fee. We know what the reports are, but we actually don't know the fee, and we don't know it for the Somerville thing. He referenced that, and obviously that is a 49ers instruction for Mr. Farke to adhere to. Also said, need more time when it came to transfers, which is good to hear because it means Leeds are still active in the market. And when he was speaking in the press conference about needing more pieces to fit the puzzle and the last little bits, it indicates that there's not just one more signing coming, which is good news to have. The team for Portsmouth, everybody fit. Cracking news. Means Bogle's fit, Rodon's fit, everybody is available. And he also referenced how that's never happened in his career. Interesting, to say the least. Not a difficult market. He was asked, is it a difficult market to navigate? Are Leeds struggling in terms of bringing in certain personnel because they're being rejected? They don't have enough money. We'll get into the enough money bit in just a little section. But he in the next section, I should say. But he was just saying that no, Leeds are just very picky, which we've had from the Radrizzani days, of which we were told from the Radrizzani and Alta days. But definitely, it's a more professional outfit when it comes to the 49ers. He said when it came to the budget, they are paying for the past, and this is something I've mentioned stream after stream after stream after stream. You get 80 million quid in. That doesn't mean you're spending 80 million pound on every single player that you know, the overall budget. It means that you're gonna have to put a lot of that money into installments, of which I know for a fact Leeds still paying for installments from years ago because of how deals was set up. You have to pay for you know, all the other bits that the 49ers are trying to instill in the club as well when it comes to facilities, etc. The club just doesn't run in terms of bringing fees in and then spending all those fees on players. I think where it was mixed up a little bit was when Parag said that money was going to be invested in the players, invested in the new players. But I think that was taken out of context a little bit, and that was spoken about in terms of pure profit and PNS and Leeds paying for their sins of the past, which we've spoken about on here many times before. So yeah, Leeds not able to spend a lot of it. Is he confident on transfers? He is confident on transfers, and still reference Leeds still needing to do bits and not being forced to do bits. Adam Pope framed a question in a way of, look, Pope, he's not been that popular this week when it comes to that podcast clip, of course, but he said, are we going to be less reliant on Somerville when it comes to goals. How are you going to spread that around? Now, I thought he phrased that question wrong. What he should have said is the impact of Somerville, because the goals were still spread around that Leeds side last season. They were, when you look at Peru, when you look at James, when you look at Nonto toward the back end, they were spread around that squad. And I thought the question was phrased wrongly and framed wrongly by Adam Pope. What he should have said is the impact of Somerville. How are you going to replace that transitional player, that player who took up so much space, that player who had 2 or 3 bodies on him? How are you going to be able to relinquish that pressure off that one body and put it onto another body or others? The goals were still spread around, but it should have been framed a little bit more as well. And the impact of Somerville, and how are you going to spread the goals around that midfield, and how will that change? Leeds budget, that was put into question as well. He spoke about the ambitious owners, but there being a notion to stick to the rules. So that's very, very important. Spoke about the ID of the young players, obviously Harry Gray, obviously James DeBayo, obviously Charlie Crew, all coming through, and how important they are in this Leeds United puzzle. They've been put, into the first team, and he was saying throughout the press conference as well that they're going to be vitally important this year. But with younger players, there is always that ambition to either sell on for a good value, develop that player so they go for a good value, or develop that player in general so they are able to feature in a Leeds United side more consistently. Spoke about not wanting to overpay. And I'm going to get into a Johnny Rowe video later on tonight, everybody, of a little bit of an update on that situation, which has developed a little bit in terms of what Norwich want. But he said, we will not overpay. If we don't think a player's worth it, we will not overpay. Going to be interesting. I thought it was interesting how he said that. And he said that 2 or 3 times. Is that referencing maybe Johnny Rowe? Who knows? Brendan Harrison wants to be here. Good news. Maximilian Werber went on a little bit of a monologue about him. Max was maybe a little bit unsure, and then he got into it of the German preseason and then knocked on Farke's door and said he's 100% convinced by the project. Great news. Also spoke on the trust on the group. Farke had 3 or 4 players coming into his office last season saying they want to go, 3 or 4 plus. They were then omitted from the side when it came to preseason training. It was chaos last season, as we know. He said that's not happened once this preseason, which is good to hear from the likes of Aronson not doing it, Werber, Somerville, Nonto, Rutter, etc. Spoke about the centre-back depth as well. Looks at James DeBayo as the person who has earned the most and he's most strict with. James DeBayo is going to fill in that right centre-back spot, of which we know Ampadu can fill in as well. And he's going to be part of that squad going forward. And the interesting thing is, everybody, Johnny Rowe and Hugo Bueno were referenced several times in the press conference. Also, what was also referenced is the positions that Leeds were going to have been rumoured to be looking at in terms of a replacement for Somerville, a central body, and a left back. That was never batted away once by Daniel Farke, and he kept saying they won't overpay, but they need the last little bits. He was using plural phrases a hell of a lot. It wasn't just one specific player he was referencing, or in terms of maybe just a Johnny Rowe and that being Leeds done. It was bits, it was pieces. It was talking about a little bit more of a collective than just one. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. What did you pick up from the press conference? Make sure you get your comments in the section below. Make sure you're checking out the Patreon. Make sure you're checking us out for the watch along tomorrow, which I'll be watching it with my old man, which is always going to be a good one. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. As I've said, head on over to the Patreon. Check out the merchandise. I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.